Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It is your Caped Crusader, Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with my brand new friend, Blake McCarthy of Territory Issues 1 through 3, a post-apocalyptic kaiju epic. My man, how are you doing? Welcome. I'm so excited to finally get you on. I know we've kind of we broke the ice here and there on Twitter, but it's nice to kind of get face-to-face, man.
For sure. I mean, thank you, Cody. Thank you for having me on. Like you said, it's good to actually, get to have a real conversation instead of just over online. And, I appreciate all you're doing, and, I appreciate you shouting out all the indie creators, and been looking forward to this. So
yeah, dude, absolutely.
It's gonna be a good
man.
time.
So first things first, how did you end up falling into the love of kaiju? Was this something that you grew up as a kid? When did this love develop for you?
Yeah, it was definitely kind of as a kid, and actually, like we were just talking about, growing up in the 90s, Jurassic Park and everything, loved that. And then also, my dad liked Godzilla, had some of the old, the old Showa era movies, and just watching those as a kid, and just fell in love with the concept. Godzilla was awesome, big dinosaurs were awesome, and if you make them even bigger, they get even cooler. So, kind of started liking it then, and then as I kind of grew up, just realized there's so much different kaiju media out there, and especially in America, we don't really see a lot of it because it comes from, a lot of different places in the world. And so
it's really mind-blowing.
It's a big world to explore. So that's what's cool, is it's kind of something that you can, start getting into, and then realize that there's probably a lot more of it than you think there is. Yeah.
So was Territory Issue number 1 your first dive into the indie community scene, or what was your first take at a comic write?
Territory is the first comic that I've made to completion. I figured out a couple years ago that this was something I wanted to do, and so I wrote some scripts and stuff, but just kind of as practice. And Territory is a story that I've had in my head for a while, and so it was the one that I kind of knew I wanted to do as my first, completed book. And so jumped in, was able to find an awesome team, which is helped me out incredibly, some really talented people that know what they're doing, and it's been a learning process, but it's been a lot of fun.
So I mean, what was your first venture into it? Where did you first begin breaking into it? For me, it's such when people are I started doing it, I'm so mind blown by that concept, because I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Honestly, that's kind of it, but I feel very lucky right now, because there are so many resources for indie creators. So I've been like I said, I've had this story in my head for a little bit. When 10 years ago in college, I did kind of thought I might want to do some screenwriting as just kind of a hobby. So I've always kind of had a little bit of interest in writing. And then it was actually when my kids started kind of getting into superheroes, and I got back into comic books, I was like, hey, this is a perfect medium for this, for what I've been trying to do. And just kind of, started diving into how to make one, what is everything that goes into making a comic book, what is all the behind the scenes. And like I said, fortunately now with the internet and everything, and the indie community itself is just so helpful and friendly and welcoming, that I was able to learn a lot really quickly. And so it was just it was a lot of time to really researching things. And like I said, it took me a couple of tries to really write something that I felt was good, and I wanted to take farther than just me writing it down. But so just kind of decided that was the way I wanted to go, and learn as much as I could, and took it from there.
So what was that process like for you? Were you doing a lot of YouTubing, asking a lot of questions? What was I guess that start for you?
So definitely YouTube, podcasts, and then just Googling online, okay, what does a comic book script look like? And then, figuring I found a bunch of scripts. Mine's actually, I use a script that's based off a Cullen Bunn template that I found. And then just, looking, okay, once you have a script, how do you write it for an artist? Where can you find artists? What are kind of just all the different steps? And if you just search,
layering, it seems like.
Yeah, it really was. And too, figuring out all the different steps. Unfortunately, there's even a lot of guides online. I think Jim Zub has one, and there's people that even kind of like focus on Kickstarter, or at least have kind of an emphasis on Kickstarter, and like how to, start a campaign and how to market it and how to get your book out that way. And so it was just, like kind of a lot of trial and error and a lot of asking people. And then fortunately, a couple of the people on my team had a little bit of experience with it too. So just kind of leaning on them, asking questions, stuff like that.
Let's go ahead and break into the creative team. So were they the same team that you had for all 3 issues?
Yes. So the artist is Chris Sassman. He's based out of South Africa, and he is an insanely talented dude. He's got, as you can see, I've got one of his original works from the first issue here.
No, that's gorgeous.
Me. And it's actually crazy. So he's young. He's like 20. I think he's around 25 now. But he actually just said he'd been drawing for a couple years, and he'd been posting on like Instagram. And
that's crazy.
Actually, Reddit was where I found him. And that was when he told me he'd only been doing it for a couple years. I was blown away because like his level of detail and everything's incredible.
He hasn't even hit his prime. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly like he's got. He's still learning. He's already this good, and he's still learning, which is incredible to me. But. So him, and then he actually knew Ichsan. Ichsan Ansori is the colorist out of Indonesia. He and Chris had worked on some stuff before. And so that was kind of nice because I talked to Chris and he was like, hey, if you're looking for a colorist, I know this guy. And I was like, cool, sounds good.
That's
you work
like
with
perfect
him,
how it works out, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that was something, especially as a newer writer who wasn't familiar with the art process, like they already kind of had a system, and so I didn't have to manage that part of it. Like they already work really well together, and I pretty much give them the script, and then they make amazingness happen. So and then the letter is Marco Della Verde out of Italy, and he's actually kind of the veteran of the group, which is nice. So he's been doing this for like 20 years, and he's worked with a lot of big publishers, Image, Marvel, all those guys.
Okay.
And so that was nice because he has been through this. He knows everything. And so he's been a great resource. Like he's a great letterer, great design, really makes the book look professional and clean. But then he also is really good at just all the behind the scenes stuff that, especially as a new creator, I had no idea about, is like managing files and sizes and getting stuff printer ready.
Isn't it crazy how like
and
small like that stuff might seem to you initially, but how important it is, like it ends up being?
Oh, 100%. And that's like, that was one of the big things I learned, is that like, you can have an idea for the story, but there's so much like technical aspect behind it that you really just don't know until you run into it, until you have something and you're like, here's this. And then somebody's like, well, that's not going to work because it won't fit into this, or we can't use this. And you're like, okay. So, you got to kind of adjust. So having somebody that knows how that works, who's been able to kind of, preemptively be like, hey, watch out for this, or we should do this way, because then when it comes time to print or whatever, it'll turn out better. It's
oh,
like,
that
cool.
had to have been like such like an invaluable resource.
Oh, 100%. Like this wouldn't have gone nearly as smoothly if I didn't have him. I can promise you that. So
like being like so wet behind the ears and getting this team up and running, like what was that like for you? It seems like there was some trial and tribulation,
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, everyone was really cool. So it wasn't, it was stressful just because it was something new and, wasn't sure really how to do it. So it was kind of like, I'd read things and had an idea of how I wanted it to go. But fortunately, we all work really well together. Chris and I have had a lot of good conversations. We work well together. Like we communicate really well. And so it's been a very collaborative process, which is awesome. And the awesome thing about Chris too, is he's a good visual storyteller. So like I'll give him a script and, like a page will have an idea for some layouts or some panels or something like that. But then he'll be like, hey, we could adjust this panel, or maybe, add a panel to do this, or, lose this panel to make it smoother. And having someone who knows how to visually tell a story has been awesome. So fortunately, like the collaboration has been good, and it's an international team, but just through the magic of the internet and social media and everything, we're all we communicate at kind of weird hours because it's either when somebody's waking up or going to bed with the time differences. But at least we can do it. And so
it's pretty remarkable for like your first book. Like, there's a lot of writers that want to take just full reins of it and like have like that full control over it. And like the fact that you wanted to work with your artists and your creative team so in depthly and let them have, a little bit of like what they wanted to do. I think that's awesome. That was, an awesome move of you, like right off the rip.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, it helps when you have people that are easy to work with, and like people who are really trying to understand what you're going for. Like that's the thing is, it's not like I give Chris a page and he's like, oh, and he just draws it. Like he'll ask me, he'll be like, so, it seems like you were going for this, or like this part of the story, you have it this way, because you're trying to set this up or something like that. Like he's trying to get the story behind it, not just the, draw this many panels, do this sort of thing. And so like having someone who understands storytelling as well as art, like he does, it makes my job a lot easier, because then he can be like, this is a cool idea, but we can make it visually more appealing or smoother if we like, adjust the layout a little bit. And so I think it makes the book a lot better. Like I have an idea for the story in my head, but he thinks a lot more visually and a lot better visually than I do. So he can make it, more visually interesting than I can with just words.
And if he's able to do that, I mean, that has to show you that he has some sort of like dedication to it. Like he has some sort of passion for it, because he's obviously like envisioning it in his head.
100%. And that's the thing. Like he's trying to because it's not just like the layouts and the panels, but even the characters themselves. He's trying to understand like what are their motivations, what are we going for here, and then that adding that depth to the characters. So you're not just seeing like character runs from here to here. It's like, well, why are they like, what are they feeling, and just bringing all that kind of that next level of storytelling to life. So honestly, like you asked me how I did it. I got lucky. Like I found a really good group of people that works really well, that are really easy to work with, and that do amazing work.
I
just got lucky to find that.
Luck might have gotten you to find it, but I mean, you were the one that kept it together. Real quick, we have Ichthus stopping over on YouTube saying, "What up, total excellence, and how's everyone in the panel doing so far?" I'm doing awesome. Just got my kids laid down. I had a chance to read all 3 issues, so I'm not gonna spoil anything, guys. But I gotta tell you, issue 3 is. But yeah, Blake, how are you? How's your night going so far?
I'm good, man. I'm doing well. My kids are still awake, but they've been pretty good. It's on summer break, and we actually just got back yesterday from a little trip, so they're a little tired. So hopefully they'll go down easy tonight. But
I had to put mine down. Like mine are. I love them to death, but they're like miniature versions of me, and it's very chaotic. We have my Guardian Sketcher 1128. What up, guys? Eli here. Comic looks awesome. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Speaking of that, let's start breaking into issue 1. So issue 1 was it started off very fast paced. There was a lot going on. Like, do you want to like give us a little bit of a breakdown, like with issue 1, like the start of it, the characters were introduced to?
Yeah, well, first, thank you guys for saying it looks awesome. I really appreciate that. And so yeah, definitely wanted to start issue 1. It was hard because it actually, when I originally wrote it, I had a much more kind of world building setup, but then I realized like it's not very exciting. It doesn't do anything to suck anyone in, and so I really tried to start issue 1 off with that kind of an action sequence where you get to, like you read a kaiju book to see the kaiju, like you want to see the big monster. So I wanted to bring that out early, show how how powerful it was, and how the people in this world interacted with it, and how they were both afraid and awed by it. And so giving them a close encounter right off the bat really set it up for something interesting to happen right away, and gave a good action sequence, but also kind of set the tone for this is the world, and this is where everyone all of these characters stand in it.
And this thing is like magnificent. It's huge. It's like a bear, like a massive bear meets like a deer. Like what was some of when you went to your artist, like some of the descriptions you gave them to kind of design this kaiju?
Definitely. So one thing that I wanted to go for, I wanted to have a very primal feel for this whole book, and so having the kaiju itself feel very primal was important. There's a lot of different ways you can do kaiju. Like you have kind of the more sci-fi, outer space, futuristic type, or you have kind of the more, you know, animalistic, you know, kind of natural type. And this I wanted to be a more of a naturalistic kind of primal feel. But another kind of key aspect of the story in the world is you have this post-apocalyptic world, this post-nuclear world that has been, you know, ruined by nuclear action from humans, and the kaiju in the book are kind of nature's pushback against that. And so I wanted to have it be, you know, natural but terrifying and mutated. And, you know, this was something that came out of nature, but we've twisted it and made it way more terrifying and horrifying than it would have been on its own.
It almost gives me, what is it? The ultimate weapons from Final Fantasy VII. Like how, like they come out from the earth, like to kind of like almost protect it, like in a sense.
Yeah. And that was the goal, like kind of, you know, the protector of the earth kind of feel was what I was going for here. Is you know, not only because it was something where like I want this big scary massive creature, you know, very primalistic. And so like to get kind of back to your earlier question, what I wrote in the script for Chris was, you know, I want this to be like, you know, I wanted to have the aspects of this bear and this elk and this deer, but I want it to be mutated. I want it to, you know, feel like something that is almost natural but just isn't quite natural. It has something that's off about it. And but you know, so it's this terrifying thing, but at the same time in the story where these kaiju are, kind of brings life back into this devastated world. You know, we kind of wiped life out, and they're bringing the life back. So they're big and scary and very dangerous, but at the same time, like they're necessary. There's something that is, you know, necessary to kind of restore the balance.
So I don't know how much of issue 1 you want to talk about. If you want to go ahead and in the StreamYard, if you want to post the link to your Global Comics, I can go ahead and start posting that on my other sites at this moment so people can check it out as well.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to spoil issue 1 too in-depthly, we don't have to, but if you want to, we can. But if not, we can always move on to kind of like a little brief summary on issue 2 to kind of set the pace up for issue 3.
Yeah, I mean, we can just go like kind of a quick summary of issue 1 and a summary of issue 2. I sent you the link for that Global Comics one. But
Twitter?
Here, it was through let me send it over Twitter real quick.
Or hold on, wait, private chat? No, yeah. Was it over StreamYard?
It was. Here.
That's so weird. I didn't get it. Oh, there it is. I gotcha. It must take a little bit of time to send. So guys, for everyone that is watching, right here is the link to Global Comics. You can actually read. Can you read issue 1 for free in its entirety, or a preview?
Issue 1 and 2 for free.
Cool.
Yeah, in its entirety. And that's, you know, Global Comics is they're kind of a new player in the digital comic scene, but they're really awesome, especially for indie creators. And they've been really great to work with, and you know, a great way to get territory out there to more people. So definitely, if you're curious about it, check it out there. The first 2 issues are free, so you know, you can get caught up before the 3rd campaign goes live next week, and have some idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, this is actually the first time that we have Blake talking about it too, so I'm very honored to have that opportunity. Thank you for that.
Well, yeah, man, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited for issue 3. It was my favorite issue to write.
Oh man, I was like woo! I was like, wow, like, you know, there's, because when you read a kaiju story, you I wouldn't say there's a level of expectation, but you expect, you know, things like, so like you took those things and I was like, this twist is unbelievable. Like, it was good.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, that's, you know, like I said earlier, like people read these books for the monsters. People like you find kaiju media for the monsters. Like, that's what I do too. And so, you know, I wanted to do something different with the kaiju genre, and, you know, I added a lot of other elements to it. But at the end of the day, if you have a kaiju book where the kaiju don't fight, it's just not that good. It's not that fun. So
was it an easy call to was it an easy call to make it like gory, or was that something that you were kind of like on the fence about?
I figured early on that it would probably be pretty gory, and again, just kind of that primal, brutal feel. You know, this is a post-apocalyptic world. This is a place where you know, humanity is in pretty bad shape, and these kaiju kind of rule in a very animalistic way. And so, you know, just with that, you're gonna have some gore and some violence and stuff like that. And I didn't want it to be over the top. I didn't want it to be the kind of the focus of the book. But you know, to use it to really capture that primal feel, I figured that was going to happen pretty early on.
Yeah, awesome. So let's dive back into issue 1 though. So issue 1, we get introduced to our protagonist. So you want to go ahead and give us a breakdown of who that is and their impact within issue 1.
Yeah, so Alkia is the main character. So I picture her as kind of a late teens girl. And so she's a member of the Great Horn tribe. The Great Horn is that bear elk kaiju we were talking about. And so in kind of the general setup for Territory is it's this post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear world far in the future where the remaining people survive in tribes, and then the tribes worship the kaiju. They're called behemoths in the book. They worship the behemoths as god. So Alkia is part of the tribe that worships the Great Horn as a god. She's a kind of in that transition where she's transitioning from a girl to a woman. She's old enough that she's really starting to make her own decisions, kind of come out from under her parents' wing, but she's still young enough where she's heavily influenced by her parents, influenced by those around her. She still feels a lot of pressure to kind of meet up to some of the tribe and her parents and her friends' expectations. And so the book starts with her. She's hunting, and so she's on this hunt just to get some food for the tribe. You meet kind of her counterpart, who is Nebo, who she had. You can tell they're not a couple, but they definitely have feelings for each other.
Oh, there's tension. Yeah.
So he's a guy about the same age, and so they're out hunting, and then the Great Horn kind of bursts onto the scene, and this is the first time that it's been seen in like a generation. And so it's a big deal, for these people. They've just literally seen their god, and so it's a big, it's a holy event. It's something that's very scary for them, but also incredibly inspiring, and it's a big deal for the whole tribe. And so the first issue especially is kind of setting up. So Alkia, as this kind of young girl who's learning how to become a woman and who's growing up and forming her own beliefs and opinions, she's been told to worship this thing her whole life, and so she's very reverent about it. She's very zealous in her worship and everything. She's kind of and then the tribe healer, who's kind of the spiritual leader, is kind of coaching her to be kind of the next spiritual leader. And Nebo's kind of the foil to that. He's a skeptic. He's cynical. He's more of the, no, this is just a big monster. Like, we need to be careful around this thing. We need to stop, like treating it like it's something that cares about us. We need to be careful around it. And so just kind of building the tension and showing how, the faith works and how the tribe worships it. Because the overall purpose of the story and the other kind of story I want to write besides the kaiju is just kind of an examination of faith, and especially how faith is taught to young people and how people kind of grow up being taught, kind of one thing, and then how their faith and their experiences and their beliefs change as that is challenged and, and as they grow and have new experiences.
Yeah, I think a lot of different things that happen to your life change your perception, and I think that's the beauty of life, right? Like your perception should always be changing. I think that's like one of those things. Like, it's one of those things like where the day, I forgot who's Albert Einstein, the day you stop learning is the day you die. Right. Something like that. I think that's another thing too. The day you allow your perception to sit, because I was just talking to someone today. Like, my kids change my perception on things almost every day.
Oh, yeah.
Because things happen, and sometimes you're like, okay, well, maybe I need to approach this in a different manner because it's not working. I have a hard time getting. Sometimes my kids are picky eaters. It's like, what do I like? I'm yanking hair out. Like, what do I like? I'm just. You need to eat to stay alive, kid. Like, give me a bone. And it's then you just okay, well, maybe if I cut it up, and then that's all it takes, and then that works. And it's like, wow. If I would have just tried a different perspective, I get stumbling on words, different perception, from their eyes, I would have found that out so much quicker,
Totally. And that's just it. And especially to me, that's really interesting, especially when it comes to faith and religion is, it's such a big part of so many people's lives, and they kind of learn it so young and are taught it so young that, and especially if it's, they kind of grow up where that's all they experience. And then, once they get out of that sort of bubble and their experiences change, how does that faith change? How do their beliefs change?
Such a rude awakening, right?
Yeah. And so this, the overall storyline throughout the whole series is kind of just, watching Alkia as she experiences a lot of different things that, kind of challenge her beliefs, and how does she react and how do they change?
So was that hard to write? Like this, it seems like such a really in-depth like concept to tackle for your first project.
It definitely was. Like the first issue, it was version 9 of the script that finally finally got completed. I think it was version 7 of the second one and version 6 or 7 of the third one. So it definitely, it's something that, because I have kind of an idea of like the message I want to send and the points I want to kind of, get into the comic, but it's hard to incorporate those while also making it feel like a natural story. And I'm not, just trying to like preach something at people.
I think you did it in a good way. Like like for me, like when I was reading, I could definitely see the religious like overtones in it, but I don't think it was like in your face. It felt like it was an organic part of the story without a doubt.
Well, that's good. And that's kind of the struggle, is it's hard when you have, something that like, because this is just kind of my personal beliefs about religion and my take on the whole thing. And so it's hard to not come across as like, let me tell you what I'm thinking or how I feel, because nobody wants to just be like talked at by someone. So it's like, how do I say it in an interesting way while also telling the story? So I'm glad it comes across natural. That was the goal. And, and that was kind of the fun thing though, was it's also challenging because then you have to kind of create characters that believe differently than you do. You have to create a variety of characters that have a variety of different beliefs. Like obviously some of them will reflect kind of how I look at things, but I also need characters that looked at it very differently than I do. And so trying to kind of think, okay, I believe this, but how would someone who disagrees think? What would their actions be? What would their take on something be? And so it kind of challenged me to think differently and to figure out, the way different people think and to bring those thoughts and beliefs to life as characters.
Yeah, I love this concept so much. It was like almost like just like mesmerizing listening to you kind of just break it down, because like at the end of the day, when you really think about it, like I mean, I'm not trying to be out of pocket or anything, but a lot of religion does teach you like kind of like, I don't know, like it's something where like you focus a lot of like your strength like on within the religion. You invest within the religion instead of within yourself. You know what I mean? So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and that's definitely a big part of the book is the religion in this, in this world for these tribes is very controlling. It pretty much dominates their way of life, and it's hard to think independently because it's just this is how they're raised. It's how they interact in this world, in this society. And so it's like, okay, how do you challenge that? If you have something that, how do you, one, show something that's really established and ingrained, like I want the religion to be in this book, but then two, how do you challenge the characters in an organic way so that, so you kind of have to think, what is their religion? And then what would change it? What would challenge it? What would make them, think differently about it? Or what would make it them believe more strongly in it? And so just trying to kind of establish.
I think you did that. I think you nailed that too.
Well,
without a doubt. Oh man,
I appreciate it, man. I mean, it is fun to think about because it does make you think deeper rather than just oh cool, so then the monster shows up and everybody panics and runs. It's like, well, for them it's this is a literal religious experience happening. What would people do in our world in real life if they had that sort of kind of big life-changing experience? How would that how would they act? How would that change them? And then what would they do next? And so trying to think about that and really incorporate that in all these characters to give them a realistic personality was a lot of fun.
No, and it just once again, I think you really hit the nail on the head with it too. So what, like with issue 1, let's go ahead and start finishing that up and we'll dive into issue 2.
Yeah, so then at the end of issue 1, so they were out, they encountered the Great Horn. It was this big, frightening but also awe-inspiring thing. So the tribe has a big celebration, kind of as a celebration of getting to witness it, of being in its presence. And so they have this big kind of ritual celebration. And then at the end, and you meet the religious leader. His name is Falric. He's kind of the elder of the tribe. He's a healer. He's a kind of the spiritual leader, and he's extremely zealous. And he's kind of, because he's the spiritual leader and the religion means so much, he's kind of the de facto leader of the tribe overall. And you see that he has a close relationship with Alkia, and that he's kind of teaching her to take over for him and all this. And so they're having this big ritual celebration. when suddenly, you know, kind of the great horn roars and stomps, and it kind of, again, it makes it real for them. It makes it scary again, that, oh, this isn't just a benign thing, you know, this is something that's potentially very dangerous. And so they decide to appease it, that they're going to take a pilgrimage, and they kind of allude to what that is, and that's what the second issue is about. But it's basically when the great horn battled another kaiju and kind of established itself as this you know, supreme being in their eyes.
So what happens, like, when the kaiju fight? Like, are they taking over territories? Like, what does the loss, like, signal? God, I am stumbling over words left and right.
All good, man. So yeah, so it's, again, so the kaiju, I want to feel very primal. Like, you know, we worship them as these, or the people in the book worship them as these holy beings, but they're very animalistic in nature. So yeah, so when they fight, it's either, you know, territory, like it is territory, you know, pretty much all the time, and that's kind of where I got the idea for the name of the book and everything. But it's for the reasons, you know, animals fight or kill each other, or, you know, chase. It's territory, you know, mating, food, you know, just the essentials to survival, basically. And so for these kaiju are driven completely on animalistic type instincts. You know, they're there to survive, as any animal is. And so, you know, and that's kind of one of the conflicts I wanted to show in the story, is that we, you know, we're worshiping, and we're the people in the story are giving meaning to the kaiju's actions based on their interpretation of it, but the kaiju aren't doing it based off that interpretation at all. They're doing it simply to survive, and because it's what their instincts tell them to do.
And I think that was another thing that you were able to really do well too, because I mean, at the end of the day, they're just being kaiju, right? They're just being beasts. They're just doing what they're meant to do. And the way they're interpreting their moves is almost like spot on with like a lot of different things, I guess, like that's translated in religion as a whole, you know, in today's standards, right?
Totally. And I mean, you know, and religion and all sorts of things, like we as humans feel like we need to look at everything from our lens. So we anthropomorphize everything, of like, you know, whenever something does something, we got to think, you know, why are they doing it? Are they happy? Are they sad? We assign a human reason or a human emotion to it. And the reality is, in nature, that's just not true. Like, animals in nature, creatures in nature, are doing it to survive. They're doing it because it gives them, or their species, or their, you know, their family group, or whatever it is, the best chance of survival. And so if they're doing something, it's not because they're, you know, it's not because of an emotion they're feeling, it's because of their instincts, what they've learned, what they've evolved to do. And so, you know, just, yeah, really showing, you know, and it's interesting because the book is almost exclusively through the human perspective. So showing, you know, kind of that natural reason for the kaiju to be doing things, while still showing the human perspective, was a challenging balance, but was fun to try to accomplish.
No, that is awesome. So issue 2 starts with the pilgrimage, and I really liked it too. The issue 1 was the name of it was the Meek, right?
Yes.
So what was the reasoning behind that before we dive into issue 2?
Yeah, so you know, the phrase "the meek will inherit the earth." So the meek being kind of, you know, the lesser, like the poor, you know, the enfeebled, and the meek in this world, in this story, are the humans. And so this is kind of introducing you to Alkia and her tribe, and the, you know, and so they are the meek in this story. They're the ones that, you know, are trying to inherit the earth, but they are, you know, they are kind of the lowest of the low at this point. Like, they're just surviving in the shadow of this great beast. And so it's just kind of interesting. Like, I tried to include some, you know, I tried to include a lot of religious, you know, kind of wording and stuff, just to be thematically consistent with what was going on in the story. And so that was the idea there. And then pilgrimage, issue 2, obviously, you know, pilgrimage is a very holy act for a lot of people, and so wanted to kind of incorporate that there. And so just, you know, and also just nice simple titles, nothing too crazy. Yeah,
we have Ichthus saying, very interesting concept of mixing religion to kaiju. When you were developing the story, were you concerned on balancing the focus on monsters and humans?
Definitely. I mean, I think one thing, one complaint you hear a lot of times with kaiju media is that it either focused too much on the humans or it didn't develop their story enough. And it's hard because, like I said, when you look for a kaiju project, you're ultimately looking for the monster. Like, that's the draw. But if you don't have at least some sort of compelling human story with it, it's hard to get invested other than like, oh, it's cool to watch the monsters fight. And so coming up with a good story as a background for, not why these kaiju are happening, but an interesting way of looking at how it's happening, and what would people think, like, if you had these sort of monsters on Earth, like if Godzilla came now, like he would be worshipped
Oh
as a
man,
god. There would
yeah.
be people, there would be religions and cults and all sorts of stuff founded around him, and people would worship and interpret his actions. And so just trying to look at it that way. And so as far as balancing it, it was making sure that you get plenty of kaiju action and you get to really learn about this cool monster, but then you have kind of a reason to invest in the human characters and follow along with them. And especially with this, it's like when you see the kaiju, when you're looking at it through their kind of religious point of view, it adds some more kind of gravitas to everything they do. It makes it feel even bigger, because not only are they doing something that's literally big, but we're also, the people in the book are basing what they do off of their actions. So what the kaiju do impacts everybody, and showing that, and so that way you kind of keep that connection between the humans and the kaiju, so you can balance kind of, people are interested in what's happening to both because they affect each other.
No, absolutely. So with that being said, issue 2, let's go ahead and start breaking that down. That begins with the pilgrimage. So where do we see that start off, and where does it end?
Yeah, so they kind of start off, and it actually starts again. Tried to, you want something to happen kind of exciting at the front to kind of get people invested. And so this one, you kind of learn, and just some more world building too. That Falric, who's the healer, kind of the leader of the tribe, this woman is pleading with him to help her son, and her son is very sick. And in this world, that sickness is due to the radioactivity of the nuclear fallout, and the only cure for that radioactive sickness is actually some sort of something with the kaiju. So either their saliva or blood or something like that. Like, you need a physical part of the kaiju to kind of heal this radioactive poisoning. And so because they saw the great horn and they were able to get some of its saliva in the previous issue, she's asking the healer to make a tonic basically to help heal her son. But he's very adamant. Again, he's a very zealous figure, so he's adamant that he read the great horn signs as we have to go on the pilgrimage now. I don't have time to help your son because we need to complete this religious act. And so again, just kind of setting up that kind of conflict of what's good for the religion, is it good for the tribe, does everyone agree? Some people want to do this, other people are more strict of, oh no, that's what the healer said, that's what the kaiju told us to do, so we need to do that. And so you get this kind of conflict at the front. They end up deciding to leave, and even Alkia, who's very zealous, is conflicted because this is her friend who's sick and she wants to help him, but at the same time she feels loyalty to this religious figure, and she feels the need to help the tribe worship appropriately so they don't feel the wrath of the kaiju. So you get this kind of argument and this conflict right at the start, and just again shows there's a lot of different people with a lot of different feelings, and it's not a consensus on how to do things.
We have Nefarious stopping to say, "Hail nerds, welcome. How are you doing?" So yeah, issue 2 I thought was really an interesting read as well too, because we kind of see the relationship between the two characters kind of start to develop a little bit more as well. Take on a little bit more of what felt like a romantic take, a little bit more from issue 1 developing in issue 2.
Definitely. And so then the tribe goes on this pilgrimage, and Alkia and Nebo, who's the male character, they start to spend a lot of time together. And like I said, they're kind of meant to be foils for each other. She's very zealous, he's very cynical, but at the same time they feel a lot of affection for each other. And so you get kind of this conflict where she likes him but she doesn't agree with him, he likes her but she doesn't agree, or she doesn't agree with what he believes. And so you see the affection between them, and they are definitely close and agree on a lot, but at the same time, it's hard for them to completely get over some of their differences. And so, and they, also these are supposed to be kind of teenage kids, so they kind of run off and have fun. And again, that's looked down upon by the more kind of strict, zealous, religious side of the tribe, and so they get in trouble, which again kind of further creates a conflict between them, where they want to be together, but they feel like there's other people that are, kind of coming between them as well. And for Alkia, her dad is also very zealous, and
oh yeah,
she's balancing that relationship with her parents. She loves her parents. She's she has a very good relationship with them, and she wants to continue that relationship. She learns a lot from them, but at the same time, she's becoming her own woman. She's becoming more independent, and so she's trying to do these things and getting frustrated that they're still kind of trying to control her. So it was just and I really want like those two. Their relationship is very important, and like I really wanted that to kind of build over time, so you see not only the affection but also the conflict, and what makes it hard for them, why they're not just already together, and what the hurdles that they have to overcome.
We have a nefarious saying over on YouTube. I was just talking to the guys from Kaiju Mania, and I gotta say it's really something to see the giant monster genre making a comeback like this. Yeah, it really has. This is like my third or fourth Kaiju interview I've done, and it was one of those things. I didn't think that it was such a big market as it is, but there is such a big following when you actually like start to break into that sphere.
100%, and that's. Kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, I've backed Kaiju Mania. I'm super excited for it. You said you've interviewed Ross Radke, Stephen Prince about Stomped and Monster Matador, and I think, like, at least my kind of interpretation, like I said, I grew up, I liked Godzilla, I liked Jurassic Park, but like in America, you're just pretty limited in what kaiju you have access to. But then I feel like with how international everything is becoming now, and especially media, like as Americans, we have access to a lot of international media, a lot of kaiju media that we wouldn't have, 20, 25 years ago. And so all these people that have, that really like kaiju, now there's way more outlets, there's way more stuff for it.
Yeah,
so as
yeah.
a fan, and us fans that like it, like I feel like I can create something, because I know, like I love the indie comics crowd, but I also love the kaiju crowd on Twitter. Like there's a whole group of people like that just share media and art and all sorts of awesome stuff there. So it's like there's definitely an audience for this, and I think it's something that just never really got the attention it deserved in America, but through the indie scene and just through the kind of ease of access for a lot of people now, they're able to get more into it and learn more about it.
No, I got you. So let's go ahead, let's start finishing up issue 2. Then what we'll do is we'll take a look at the pre-launch campaign for issue 3. And guys, we have a special preview for you. We're going to take a look at the first 3 pages of issue 3. So let's get to it. I'm excited for it, man.
Definitely. And so issue 2, so they go on this pilgrimage. Alkia and Nebo are, you kind of see their relationship start to develop. You see Alkia's relationship with the healer. You see the relationship with her parents. So basically, you really get an insight into her life and why she is who she is. But then you also learn that the reason they go to this site and they make the pilgrimage to this site is this is where the Great Horn battled another behemoth called Aquamassis. Aquamassis, again, going for that primal animalistic feel. This is kind of an amphibious sea like kind of kaiju, very frog-like, got some kind of crab parts to it. So it's very different from the Great Horn, but still kind of that same primal animalistic feel. And you see, we have, again, Chris did a great job, this amazing splash page of this huge battle between them, and it's kind of got one monster on either page, again, showing that kind of godlike aspect of these things. And the Great Horn kills Aquamassis, and it, so that's why this tribe worships it so much, as they see it as this is the, the top tier, the alpha of the kaiju. And so it's got to be, the one worth worshiping. And so you get some background on the religion and why people, why this tribe worships it so much. And then there's another little surprise at the end that I won't talk about here, but there's just a couple other little
Yeah.
things that come up on the issue. But then at the very end, they come home, and then there's a big surprise that sets up the third issue.
And right there is the link to Global Comics. You can read issues 1 and 2 for free. So I really like the image. When I actually seen it in the book, I was like, oh man, this was insane. Because I remember seeing that panel. I was like, oh, that's the cover image. Like, this was such a crazy crazy thing. So this is Territory issues 1 through 3, a post-apocalyptic kaiju epic. The third issue of the post-apocalyptic kaiju epic miniseries where people worship the kaiju as gods. Godzilla meets Horizon Zero Dawn at 72 followers. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the most followers we've had for a pre-launch. So, and we've still got a week to go. It launches next Monday, the 20th, 1 week from today. So, pretty excited. The momentum behind this has been good. So, I'm excited.
So, what are you doing differently that you would you say that's kind of been helping with that momentum?
I don't know if there's a whole lot I'm doing differently. I think part of it is it's just. The nice thing about Kickstarter is you actually build an audience as you go, like the people that kind of check out your first Kickstarter, if you're able to complete it successfully and, deliver a product that they like and all that, you get a lot of those people back. And then you can offer, all of the issues each campaign. So it works for new people. Plus you get kind of a built-in audience as you go. So I think, it's finally just got a little bit of a built-in audience. And then I've also just been, trying to hit the social stuff real hard. And one thing that I've learned too is this community is so great about supporting each other that the more support you show for other people, the more support they'll kind of give back. So it's this really cool kind of thing where everyone buys in. And so unfortunately, like, there's just been so many amazing projects constantly on Kickstarter. I actually just posted something yesterday of a bunch of the books I've gotten over the past couple years. And it's it's just awesome. Like, that Kickstarter is my main source for comics at this point. Like, the indie creators, the indie scene is, in my opinion, just the most exciting one going right now. And so I think just getting more involved with that indie comics community and other creators, and it's awesome because everyone's out to support each other, everyone's out to help each other. And so yeah, I think that it's just been the community's kind of rallied and gotten behind the book.
Oh, that is so awesome, man. That is so awesome. Let's go ahead. So right here is the launch. I put the link in there. This says he's going to definitely check it out. Be sure to notify. Let's get that up to 73, 74 at the time we end this interview, guys. Let's get that up there. Let's try to get it up to 100.
And thank you, Ictus. I appreciate it, man. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you like what we're talking about. It's this is the most fun issue. You're jumping in at a good time.
So, did you say you had those 3 pages we could preview on your end?
Yeah, let me pull those up real quick.
All right. And then, so we're going to take a look at the first 3 preview pages of issue 3, guys. A little sneak peek. If you've been following Blake, you've had the opportunity to probably see a page here or there. I'm not exactly. Is this your first time kind of sitting down and looking at 3 of them consecutively like this?
Is it my first time I've looked at all 3 of them consecutively?
Well, what? No, like in this setting.
Yeah. Yes, this is definitely. This is the most I've kind of gone through the
He's
story.
He's like, man, I created this. What do you mean?
Yeah, but no, this is actually the first time I've gone like in an interview kind of through the whole story, though. Like a lot of talks about concepts in the past and like specific aspects. So it's been cool to get to talk about kind of the whole thing and the story, at least as I see it in my head, and to see what people are thinking about it. So this has been great.
Awesome. Yeah. So we got it added. Whenever you want to take off, feel free. This is page 1 of issue 3.
Yes. So this is page 1. So at the end of issue 2, the tribe comes back home and they find that their home has been destroyed. And there's great horn fur everywhere, but there's also these scales, and they have no idea what these scales are. So they're very confused. They're very scared. Their home's been destroyed, and with the great horn fur, they know that their god has been attacked. So this is Falric. This is the healer, the spiritual leader, tribal leader. So you kind of start. You get this close up of him. Feeling the great horn fur, feeling the blood, and he's just basically in shock. Like, these people are not sure what could have happened. They've witnessed this thing because they think it's, kind of the alpha being in existence, and now it's suddenly looking vulnerable, and they're not sure how to process that. So then Alkia, again, she's kind of coming up to be the next healer. So she comes up, she's checking in with them, says healer. And then this guy is one of the tribe members. Bolkar is in the first issue. He's just kind of the de facto security for the tribe. Just a big, strong guy who kind of takes care of everyone, and he's very panicked. He's holding up one of the scales that they found, and the scale is bigger than his head, so it's obviously from a very large creature. So he's talking about, we need to move. This monster's coming back. We need to get to the forest. He's pointing. So the forest is kind of devastated. You can see the ruins of the city that they live kind of close to, far off in the background there. And then you get this, the tribe starts to panic. Everyone, is kind of looking out for themselves. Bolkar's trying to calm everyone down. Alkia's kind of panicking because she can't find her parents.
This is also gorgeous too. I love this artwork and coloring. It's just gorgeous.
Yes, Chris and Ichsen are, like I said, they're amazing. I got very lucky. They are extremely talented. And then Alkia kind of runs into her dad, reunites with her parents, and they talk about. She says it can't be true. The Great One will protect us as it always does. And then her dad's saying it will come, it must come. So these people just believe that this thing's going to protect them. They believe so much in it. They're even though they're scared, they believe that it's going to come and fix whatever the problem is. So then they're getting ready to kind of take off to find safety in the forest when Falric, the healer, tells everyone halt, kind of again resumes his leadership position, tells everyone to kind of calm down. He says this is merely a test of the unfaithful joining. I
love just how deep you're intertwining this religious aspect into it. Like I said, it's not like so like thrown in your face. This is like what you would want from his character. So it's like organically feeling,
Yeah, and that's why I said like Chris is great at visually capturing the emotions I was going for, and then I'm glad that because that was one thing is you can I felt like I could overwrite the religious part a little too much, so I was trying to do it in a way that felt organic, but still, you get that kind of overbearing sense of that's just this guy's whole identity is tied to the religion, and so you really want to get that sense. And yeah, so he's, basically using the religion as a tool to tell people this is just a sign of the unfaithful. We just need to show our faith and we'll be okay. When suddenly you get this big boom, again, it unsettles everyone. They get real scared again. And then this is going to be the 2-page splash where you see the great horn.
Oh,
and
this is so gorgeous.
Yeah, and this is like, these are my favorite pages of the book. Just Chris kills these pages, the amount of detail, the scale of the monsters, just everything about it is so. Let me see if I'm trying to make this a little bit bigger.
I think if you on your window, if you like pulled the bottom and like stretch the bottom down, like how you size your window up, like
yeah. Just don't know how to do it with the screen sharing. But even just there, kind of, being able to see the tribe running in the foreground, you get the sense of just how massive these creatures are compared to the people. And this new monster is called the Model Ishki, which is kind of a combination of the Navajo word for snake and lizard or Gila monster.
That's so cool.
Because and that was one thing I originally had kind of a lot of. And like this, a lot of the tribal stuff and a lot of the religious aspects, as far as like worshiping sort of a great being, are heavily influenced by Native American cultures.
Like that, the Serpent Mound, right?
Sorry, say that again.
The Serpent Mound. It's like that huge, like there's this mount where it looks like a huge serpent.
Yeah, exactly. And so like the kind of these great beings that come from the earth, like that was that idea was something I really wanted to carry in here. And so the Model Ishki was just kind of a way to kind of pay tribute to a lot of that inspiration. And then it's I think the most intimidating of the kaiju that are in the books, and it's it's supposed to look very evil because it's portrayed as very evil
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of the story. It's coming in and fighting the Great Horn, which is supposed to be this kind of divine being, and you get this kind of serpentine reptilian monster battling it. And so this is the last page on my show, but
Yeah. I did. This is so good. We have some comments over on YouTube as well. We have Ichthus saying religion and kaiju is a mix. I wouldn't know it exists until now. Ichthus also said, I'll definitely follow you on social media. Blake, keep myself in the loop. Be sure to check out the description. All the social media platforms are in the description. So save yourself some footwork there. The art and colors are beautiful. Damn, that splash peg looks sick. We have Elena saying beautiful work. And then Ichthus saying, when you were developing the kaiju, did you look into spiritual or religious meaning for the animalistic monster?
Well, so again, thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, all of the credit for this goes to Chris and Ichsan for the arts and colors, and then Marco for the lettering. Like I said, I'm just so lucky to have this team. It's been a really fun team to work with, really fun to develop all these, getting to make your own kaiju. Like that's a dream I've had since I was a kid. So now getting to, see one of them brought to life. Yes, they do. And I love it. And then as far as looking into a spiritual or religious meaning for the animalistic monster, again, I did kind of look into, there's such a wide variety of, native beliefs, but, a lot of them, there are a lot of kind of similarities across some groups and around some ideas, and kind of that, worshiping the kind of an animalistic, totemic, earthy creature is one of the common themes. And so that was definitely something I wanted to incorporate heavily in this. And I feel like the designs of the kaiju really help capture that kind of animalistic kind of earthy
I really like the lettering too, like the hiss and the growl.
Yeah, and like I said, and Marco's amazing because not only was he great as just kind of a mentor and someone who was able to guide the team, but then the lettering itself, and giving each monster its own distinctive feel, capturing the different moments, with various sound effects and everything. It was
gorgeous.
He just added another level to the book. So
gorgeous. I almost hate to break away from it, but we have to, guys. You're gonna have to, once again, the link is in there. Check out the Kickstarter. You have no reason not to be notified on following. And Blake, with that being said, that leads me to my next area of questioning. For anyone that's on the fence about backing, about picking up issue 3, what would you like to say to them directly for when this goes live?
I think the thing I'd say, so issue 3, like I said, it was my favorite issue to write. If you are coming here for, kaiju monster action, this is the issue that's definitely got the most monster action. But then it's also, this is a book that's about more than just kaiju. It does have a lot of different sort of human elements going on. It examines, a variety of issues with belief and family and stuff like that. So this is, a book that I think, kaiju fans will love, but also fans who are just looking to, kind of a story of kind of growing and developing your own beliefs and kind of growing into who you are as a person. This is definitely a story about that too. So I think there's definitely some people that will like more aspects of the book other than others, but I think there's a lot of aspects to it that will appeal to a lot of different people.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much for breaking things down. Before we wrap up things completely, I do want to ask you one question, because as much as this is a podcast to really kind of break down who you are and to kind of help you have a platform to really amplify your voice, I also acknowledge that a lot of indie creators watch this too. So with that being said, for anyone that's kind of out there struggling to get their own dream or passion going, what type of advice would you give them to kind of just get started with it, to get just going and to get it going,
I would say the biggest thing and kind of what helped me was setting, a bunch of smaller achievable goals and, to work towards a bigger goal. And so, like, especially, we talked about kind of as a new creator, it was a lot of research a lot of different aspects of it, a lot of different steps to the process. And I would say, kind of take your time to learn each step, and take your time to really set a goal for yourself with each step, like figure out, because you probably, the thing that most creators have already is their story. Like, the story you want to tell, and you may have an idea of how you want to tell it, but it's kind of everything else. And so just really taking the time to learn, okay, how do I format this correctly? How am I going to how do I write in a way that makes sense to an artist and will get get what I want across to the artist? And then how will, finding that artist and finding a team that works together, that communicates, and then looking at, okay, look at, like, one thing I did was I backed a bunch of campaigns. I looked at a bunch of campaigns to get inspiration. What campaigns stuck out to me? Why did I like them? What was I interested in? Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you go into this and just be like, well, I'm just going to make a comic and put it on Kickstarter, like, you're probably not going to have a lot of success, not because your comic's not any good, but just because, like, no, you won't be able to show people how good it is. And so look at campaigns that, catch your eye and interest you, and figure out why they do, and what, what's eye-catching about them, and what can you incorporate into your campaign. And then the other thing is, at least for me, everything that I put in my campaign, because there's a million different rewards, a million different ways to do things. I think just find your lane, find what you like, so that it, like, stuff that you would back, stuff that you would want out of it, so that when you're creating it, you're creating something that you would want to keep for yourself. You know, and then that way, because if you're making it like, I would use this, I would want this, chances are other people are going to want it too. But if you're just like, well, I personally don't care about this, but other people have done it, so I'll just like make a try at it, you might not make something that good because you don't really know why it
probably going to be a bad time, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of been my approach with it. And then the biggest thing is get involved with the indie community. I don't like social media. I wasn't really on social media before, but the comics community on social media is extremely friendly, extremely welcoming, extremely helpful. People support each other's books, prop each other up, and plus you just learn not only about being a creator, but about the creative world, and you see so many cool projects that even if that's all you do, with social media and communication wise, it's worth it for that. Like, you can learn so much and get involved with so many cool people that it's worth it. And not only will you help get your book out there, but you'll meet a lot of really cool people and get inspired too.
No, absolutely. That is some interesting tidbits of news right there, or gold nuggets, if you will. I don't know why I said news, but I've never really thought about backing a project, like when you do this, like to back projects to learn how the campaigns look, because that's genius, like that right there, like you're doing what you're backing what you want your campaign to do, so that was a pretty smart move. I really appreciate that look at it, Blake. Once again, it's just kind of like touching on earlier, like the different perspective view to it, like the way you looked at it, it was just unique to hear that. So that was really awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on here and breaking down Territory issues 1 through 3. This was awesome, man. We have Ichtha saying this was a fantastic interview as always. I gotta agree, I had a blast, like learning about just the different way you entwined religion and all these different aspects with kaiju.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed it too. I just gotta say one more thing. I forgot it earlier. The other thing would be get an editor. I didn't mention her earlier, and I feel bad about it. Nicole DeAndrea. So I didn't have an editor for issue 1, and then she got on with issue 2, and she'll be on it for the rest of the series. An editor is another person, especially as a new creative, when you're not sure if you're overwriting something, when you're not sure if your story point makes sense, when you're not sure about this or that. Like, an editor is so clutch to come in, to smooth things out, to answer your questions, and to point out things that you won't have noticed because you just haven't done it before, so you haven't had a chance to learn. And so she's been awesome, and I would definitely say from here on out, every book I make, every project I do will 100% have an editor. So that's so awesome.
Hey, you gotta save the best for last too. You gotta save the best for last. You wasn't forgetting her. You're just saving the best for last, man.
Exactly. It was totally planned out the whole time, just like I had it in my head.
Ichtha saying indie comic scene means like underground rock band trading each other's mixtapes and sharing tips and tricks to the trade. I think that's a perfect explanation. So guys, with this being said, it is about time for me to pack up. It is Monday. I have a whole house full of kids ready to wake up bright and early, and as an old man, I got to be getting some Z's. Blake, once again, thank you for stopping by, breaking down Territory issue 1 through 3, and everything else in between about kaiju. Guys, I hope you have an awesome time, but most importantly, keep it geekly.
Thank you, man.